Hollywood Squares I was with for 14 years. I did the original 3 pilots with 3 different guys to host it. And we did 3 pilots, one with Bert Parks, one with Sandy Barron, one with somebody else. And then all of a sudden, Peter Marshall was the MC and the best one. There were 5 original squares: Wally Cox, me, Maury, Cliff Arquette, and Audrey Dalton, Abby Dalton. Those were the 5 originals. And then they get 4 guest stars. And then little by little, everybody went their own way for a while. I just stayed with it because it was an easy show to do after my husband died. I didn't have to worry about singing. I didn't have to worry about this. I didn't have to worry about anything. It was an easy show to do. And I took it because it was an easy show to do. We did 5 shows in one day. And we were not told the answers, contrary to what people said, which is what they do now, which is ridiculous. I don't watch the show now. We come in about, early 12 o'clock, something like that, and do the first show, and change clothes and do the second show, and do the third show, and then we'd break for dinner, and then we do the last 2 shows, and I was home by 11 o'clock. Some of them were written for, like Paul Lynn and Cliff and Wally, I think, were not told anything, but they gave answers for Paul to be funny, and it had some great lines. And a lot of the people said, I don't want anything, I'll think of my own. And it's a very funny thing when you're a panelist and people playing for money. There's time to be funny and a time not to be funny. If they're up for $5,000 and you're clowning around with a question, it ain't very funny, So you have to know what you're doing as far as a panelist is concerned. It's a job in itself to know when to make fun of it and when not to make fun of it, So I don't remember mine. I remember Paul's more than anything. They asked Paul, why do motorcycle riders wear leather jackets? And Paul said, because chiffon wrinkles. And they asked him, when does a lamb become a sheep? And Paul said, that depends on the shepherd. And then my favorite was, if you're going down the freeway 80, 90 miles an hour and your brakes give out, what should you do? Paul says, honk if you love Jesus. So those are my 3 favorites. Questions were written for me, but I didn't know what they were until they asked them. And they would always ask me about getting a guy. It was always getting a guy or going out on a date or whatever, something like that. And made fun of me because I was getting older, Well, it was brilliant. It was brilliant. I mean, the proof of the pudding, it was on for 14 years. How bad can that be? Mine was what I used to call the lox box, up on top of in the middle. That was mostly where I used to stay, in the middle on top. And then Michael Landon would be on this side and something like that. But I was always in the middle on the top. Paul was wonderful. Paul and I were very close friends. Very close friends. Paul was very funny, brilliantly funny. And as I told you, we did 3 shows, and then we'd break for dinner. Well, they would have wine. Well, I don't drink, but Paul took a few, and came in the next night when we were shooting and said, you don't know what happened to me last night. I said, what happened, Paul? He said, well, I had a little too much to drink last night. I said, yeah. He says, and I was riding on the sidewalk going home, and a cop pulled him over, and the cop came over with the pad, to give him a ticket. And Paul looked at him and said, I'll have a cheeseburger, hold the fries. And the cop laughed and said, get out of here. So a lot of funny things happened on that show, things like that. Cliff Arquette was absolutely wonderful and a genius on the Civil War. I really think he was a throwback from some general or something. He knew so much about the Civil War. It was. I have a painting that he did for me, that one in the center. And I loved him. We were very, very dear friends. George and my husband were very, very close friends. They were buddies. So he was over here quite a bit. Yeah, we a little bit. My husband used to call him Little Bit. And they talk on the phone like 2 women for hours, play golf together and all that. In fact, last time I did Squares and George was on, I said, how's your golf game? He says, I don't play anymore since my buddy died, which was very sad. They were very, very close. They were over my house many times for dinner. I used to have them over quite a few times. In fact, one time, the Secret Square was a dinner at my house. And some kid that was an aviator on the United Airlines or something, he brought his mother and his girlfriend over for dinner. And I had 15 people here for dinner. So anyway, but that was good. Peter Marshall I see every once in a while. We send Christmas cards, birthday cards. We see every once in a while. We go down the Laguna and see the pageant down there, and he's always there, and I'm always there. So we see one another quite a bit. He's the best one there is. He knows how to feed a line. He knows how to work a line. He knows how to feed you right. He knows how to persist in it, and he knows when to cut it off. He's wonderful. He's brilliant, really brilliant.